Hi, I'm Kelly Spolsky, and I'm with Thunder Bay Live here on St. Paul Street with Arts Gallery, and I'm here with Doug. And it's been a while. What's been happening?
Well, first of all, hi.
Hi,
Good to see you again.
nice to see you.
Yes, things have been going really well
Mm-hmm.
as far as the campaign goes. I've got a lot of support
Oh, right on.
through Facebook. That's basically I'm doing a Facebook
Mm-hmm.
thing. Can't afford anything else actually, but
Mm-hmm.
I find it very effective. I'll find someone that that has that says mutual friends, and then
Right.
I'll just get hold of their mutual friends and say, I'm running for mayor, and
Right.
if you'd like to check my character out, then you can just ask my friend, and then since they know me personally, then they'll give you an idea of what I'm about.
That works for me.
Well, you can't beat the social media, actually.
This is true. So, have you been knocking on doors? What's been happening?
No, just Facebook.
Just Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard for me to walk right now because of the hernia I'm
Right.
dealing with.
You did. I think
Yeah,
you mentioned you
yeah,
were
yeah.
gonna.
Last time I was here, I mentioned the
Mhm.
hernia. So I see a surgeon on November.
Okay.
So that'll be a year since I've had it, right?
Oh,
and
wow.
it just hasn't been getting any better. So walking isn't much fun these days.
No.
Well, I wasn't planning on going door to door anyways. So
It's really tough. I find that people are saying that they're scared to open their doors sometimes, and if it runs late at night, with their days getting shorter as they do, people are, or they're busy.
yeah, I just never wanted to disturb someone.
Mm-hmm.
It would be sort of like one of those telemarketers calling in the middle of dinner or something, right? You
Yeah.
just never know what someone's up to on the other side of the door. So
Yeah, that's
I'd
true.
rather just get through it, Facebook, leave a message,
Mhm.
and then at their convenience they can
Right.
get back to me and we
So
can
have a
talk.
lot of people added you on to find out what your campaign's about, or?
Yeah, well, I've had about 300 now, I guess.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, but everybody I talk to, they're just pretty pumped about it, and I seem to have quite a bit of the younger demographic.
Oh, that's good.
Because part of my thing is legalizing pot for this area.
Right.
And it's very topical. I mean, just on the way here, Ontario today
Mhm.
had a show on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what did they?
They had a psychiatrist on there that wasn't recommending it for teenagers,
Right.
which I don't either.
Mhm.
But I don't recommend drugs for anybody,
Right.
actually. But is it, the risk of going to jail
Mhm.
and getting a criminal record for 7 years, guaranteed.
Right.
And it's considered more of a crime than crack, actually. Marijuana
I did
is.
not know that.
Yes, it is, actually. I've seen it with my own eyes. So I
Mhm.
mean, why the double whammy, right? You know,
Right.
and it's, I grew up, and you can get it no matter what anyways, right? So why
Yeah.
not regulate it? Because a lot of people these days, for one thing, it's grown in, just unholy circumstances.
Mhm.
They're using a lot of chemicals and it's not flushed properly. And then you hear stories of people spraying it with meth, meth and,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and stuff like that. So if it was regulated, you can get it from a certified dealer,
Right.
like they're doing in Colorado.
That's more medical too that we're talking about. We're not talking for recreational only.
Well, you see, with me, I don't draw a line between medical
Mhm.
or recreational because there's a reason why someone in the first place would want to tamper with their consciousness if they were happy as they were,
Correct.
right?
Okay.
Like, I grew up as a kid, never thought about drugs, right? Then when I got into my teenagers, I started on cigarettes and booze and I went to pot, right?
Mhm.
But there's a reason why you want to alter your consciousness.
Right.
So regardless if you want to call it medical or recreational, the fact is you are tampering. And in doing so, you're playing with addiction.
Right.
Even though pot is not, it's been proven it's not physically addicting, but it
Okay.
can be very psychologically
These are
addicting.
all things that have come out in the last
Yes.
4 to 5 years or so. The benefits.
Well, yeah, there's the benefits, but there are drawbacks. Like the two commissions we've had, the Dane Commission in 1970, early 70s, and then the Senate one in 2002. They
Right.
recommended, legalizing and selling it like cigarettes for over 16.
Okay.
Because the scientists have discovered that there's a period up to over 15 where there's some serious developing going on in a teenager's brain,
Makes sense.
and it can seriously affect motivation
Mhm.
and they've shown that it can also, if you're leaning towards schizophrenia or any
Right.
kind of a paranoia, it can push you over the edge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, people get, even normal people, so-called normal people, can get anxious on pot.
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
So I mean, but it just increases awareness. That's what it does. And if you're becoming aware of the wrong things,
Mhm.
it's not good.
Right.
So no, I mean, it's best that teenagers don't, but they do. I mean, that's the thing. So, it should be treated as a social issue and not a crime.
Right.
And we just had, last time I was here, I mentioned two presidents, ex-presidents, Clinton and Carter, and they were totally into the war on drugs, and they both admitted it was a miserable failure
Mhm.
because it just the incarceration and the costs and all that. Now, about last week there was, I think, 7 other presidents, ex-presidents added to the list that have all said that the war on drugs is a abject failure.
Wow.
That was Poland, Mexico, Uruguay, Switzerland, and on, right? So these are people that were actually, should know. They were involved in it, and it didn't work. So what you do is you regulate it, and this Supreme Court judge came out, a Canadian one, last week and said that all drugs should be legalized and regulated, as we do with tobacco and cigarettes, right?
Yes.
And this is a Supreme Court judge. So
Wow.
I think her opinion holds a bit of weight. But, once you regulate it, then you can control the quality. And then, you can use some of the tax dollars for clinics. The people do abuse the certain drugs, which they will.
Yes.
Because they say 10% of the population is going to get addicted to something. Like, seriously, where it's problematic, right? So,
Yes.
So these people, instead of, putting them into the jail, and then when they come out, it's a lot worse, right?
Yes.
You've lost your social skills, you're bitter. And, so you're going to go back with your same friends and all that. So, the more compassionate way of going about it is treat it as a social issue. With alcohol, we got all kinds of, places, where you can get help.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it's, and it is a drug. So, even though it was declassified as one,
Okay.
yeah, because the alcohol industry lobbied the government to have it declassified as a drug. That's why you always hear alcohol and drugs.
Right.
And it is a drug. In every aspect, it is a drug, right? But they just, and the tobacco industry did that too. They had their product declassified as a drug. So people can fool themselves into thinking they're not doing a drug. And it's worked.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I guess that's my prime platform for running. And even their present mayor, who was an ex-cop of many years, he
Right.
was, quoted as saying legalization marijuana and taxing it. And, using the tax dollars. And you'd free up the police, too. I mean, Thunder Bay is not a safe environment anymore. Murder capital, we do more pills here than any other city in Canada. We have more high incidents, drinking and all that. So whatever we've been doing hasn't worked. It's just getting worse.
Yeah,
So
there's something wrong.
yeah, we have to go outside the box. And, it's just not me. It's like these world leaders and respectable people. I've been written off as a, drug-crazed hippie over the years. I've been talking about this since 2002. And it's now, the tide is turning, and it's like, I'm making sense.
Didn't Justin Trudeau want to push to legalize marijuana as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he smoked it the odd time, but his dad was a big smoker, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his wife, Margaret, there, she wrote a book, and he used to sit at 24 Sussex in front of the fireplace and smoke all the time.
Wow.
And he was a brilliant man.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he's my favorite politician of all time. So, and that's another thing. And I actually truly believe, and not just hopefully, that, but just logically, that Trudeau is going to get in next. He's got the charisma, he's got the momentum, and Harper is evil, in my opinion.
A lot of,
He's just a heartless bastard. I'm sorry. When it comes to the environment, building super prisons, mandatory maximum sentences, just for, like, he's just a heartless bastard.
Right.
And some people like that. But I think it's wearing thin. I mean, it's just, anyway, so.
What's a super prison?
Well, usually that means they're run for profit, for
Okay.
one thing, right? They do that in the States, so, and the States is the most incarcerated population on earth.
I did read that somewhere.
Yes, by far, right? So what happens when you have prisons run for profit is you design laws to actually keep them full.
Right.
There was a judge in the States, there was a juvenile judge. He had money invested in one of those kid prisons, and he was sentencing kids right and left, and they found out that, and he got in a lot of trouble over it, but it's just human nature that, when big business dictates what goes on in society, which it does.
Yes.
And ever since I was a kid, I didn't vote because I truly felt that the politicians are mere puppets, and the ones pulling the strings are the lobbyists, the big money interests, and that hasn't changed at all. So, and I think that part of it's going on in City Hall right now, where the council is being told what to do by the administration.
Right.
I've heard that from a number of people, and just listening to Tim Camiso last night about the event center, it was so vague, and it was all these ifs, right? I mean, if this happens, this money's going to show up, blah, 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 blah. And it's just vague, and I think it's, I mean, it'd be great to have one, but I just practically speaking, I don't think it's going to fly.
Right. I mean, it looks like it's coming either way. I don't know what to say about it. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not sure. I
Well,
mean, I
yeah,
see the good. I see the frustration. I see both ends of it for sure.
but
Um,
we've had professional teams here before,
right.
and they've all left town with lack of an audience, right?
Right.
And the Gardens might get in around 2,000 a game, and how are we going to get 5,000 people? I think that's what isn't this 4 or 5,000 people
Yeah.
sitting right in. You have to have so many in the seats to actually maintain a AHL team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love hockey. I'm a
Oh, I do
huge
too.
sports fan and
Mhm.
everything else, and I'd love to be able to go in that. But just the fact of affording it and then just maintaining it, and we have enough white elephants in town too,
Mhm.
like that. The taxpayers, the complex and the auditorium, they're good places, but you know, there is a deficit every year, is there not?
Yeah. I mean, some of the buildings are having issues. They're getting older, and I understand. Like the Gardens is fairly old. I don't even know how old it is.
Yeah, well, Bob Hope called it the barn.
The barn. Oh wow.
See, I never played in the barn before.
Oh goodness.
I mean, it's not that great, but this is a lunch bucket town too,
Mhm.
right? We have no outside draw here.
Right.
Like in Southern Ontario, a city this size, you got a huge draw. Cause I'm from Southern Ontario,
Okay.
right? So you got all these little towns every 5-10 miles, right?
Right.
And so people, it's not a big deal to drive here. But what do we got? We got Naulu and the Cam,
Mhm.
as maybe Mayoral or something. But they're just this pipe dream of having all these people coming in. It's not going to fly. I don't think.
I know it's frustrating to try and sit in the Gardens if you're of any height. My ex-father-in-law was 6 something, and he had a difficult time. His knees were always pointed out.
Oh, it's not
Very
comfortable
tall.
now.
No, I mean,
I go and watch the Thunderwolves all the time. And
Right.
it's anything but comfortable, but it's just within reason. But just the whole specter of this complex, it just seems overblown. And
they
plus the
wanted to make an
location.
event center out of it too. I
Yes.
think, right?
And
Hmm.
there's people worried about it drawing from the other places, right?
Right. Well-
Like all these other places that put on banquets and all that.
Mhm.
It will draw from them too, right? So
We're not going to please everybody, and I understand that.
no,
Absolutely.
it's very contentious. But just about all the young people I've spoken to with my baseball team, and they're pro event center. And
Right.
It's
The younger ones.
Yes.
Okay.
But then the seniors and whatever, they're concerned about their taxes later on, right?
Yeah.
If you're on a fixed income.
As the kids should be too.
Yeah.
The younger ones. I mean, they're going to stay in the city and own homes and taxes, and
Yeah.
everybody should be concerned about it.
Yeah. So. But
So I guess I don't have to ask you how you're attracting younger voters, because you already touched base on that. And how are you attracting the older crowds then? I'll ask you that question.
Well, just to if they legalize pot here, I'm into legalizing all drugs. And
Right.
That's the way to go. But using this as a test site, you're going to have a lot more tourists come in.
Mm-hmm.
It's Thunder Bay is a destination point. To me, it is the beautifulest place in the world, and I'm well traveled. I've been to like 46 states.
Mhm.
All the provinces
Right.
except for PEI, and I lived and worked all over North America. And to me, Thunder Bay is a perfect combination of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You got mountains, you got lakes, you got rivers, you got trees, and of course there's a price tag. The
Right.
cold and the bugs and all that. But it's worth the price of admission, right?
What? Good way to
So-
put it.
So, anyways, I mean, people will come here, and because just I have a friend that has a resort. I don't know if I mentioned that over by Atacocan there, and he has a bunch of fly-in camps. He's an American fella, and he's praying for the day that pot is legalized because he knows Americans are going to flock here.
Wow.
And and it's kind of it's. And plus, some of that money saved, you can, like the whole legalizing drug thing is these people that are committing the crimes can get help, right?
Right.
So that's going to make it safer for seniors to
That's
actually,
true.
yeah. Personally, I didn't want to walk at night either. I was swarmed one night a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, by about 10 young guys, and it was very frightening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, so I mean, it's not working. I mean, Mr. Hobbs said he was going to fight crime in that, but it's only gotten worse. And he's saying, these stats about how crime's gone down, but I think part of the reason why it's gone down is simply because people don't go out at night.
It could be. I mean, I don't know. I don't go out either.
No.
It's only because I'm tired.
Well, I mean, I live in Fort William there, and a lot of the nights, you can just hear the what's going on out there. Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just a lot of noise and a lot of stabbings and you basically guarantee that most of them are drug related.
Wow.
So, you know, just find help for these people, and instead of incarcerating them, spend that money. Like for myself personally, I did a Freedom Information. I don't think I'd mentioned that I had done on the police station, and they got a file 2 inches thick on me.
Okay.
This thick, right?
Wow.
I'm an old hippie that's grows pot, right? So they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on me alone,
Wow.
right? And that money could, just say put it towards nutritional breakfasts for the kids at school. Like just divert the money. And that's why the police and the justice system has just totally made my life hell in this town, is
Right.
because they stand to lose big time.
Well, at least you're standing up and
Yes.
for what you believe in.
And I've taken the abuse, right? So that's one thing I can say about if you vote for me, like I'm stubborn. If I believe in something,
Right.
I'm not going to cower.
Right.
And they've tried everything, and just following me around for years and lying in the newspaper about me being involved in organized crime, which is, as I like to say, you should see my apartment. It's not very organized.
Okay.
But no, I mean, I'm just a one-man show, right?
No, I follow you.
Yeah, and
That's a good way to put it.
I've always been a one-man show, and it's just but to waste that many resources on me, it just shows you their fear. And like I say, Hobbs, who would know better than anybody?
Right.
He wants, he knows it's a total waste of money. And I would like to ask him someday, like, did he come across this conclusion about legalizing it while he was on the force, or was it when he left? And I would guarantee you that he knew, with his time on the force, that it was just crap.
Right.
And I talked to 2 sergeant majors from the OPP once, and they told me their 60 years of accumulated service, there was never a domestic dispute involving pot.
Wow.
Now, if you look at the blotter every night of alcohol, and it's just filled, right? So 60 years, right? So it just, I'm not asking for anything evil. It's just
Right.
sort of like just a social justice thing where, there's a reason why people do drugs, right? And a lot of it, in my experience and with my own experience, it's the dead and pain. I was sexually abused as a child.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, it's common. I've been
Yes.
very open about that, right? So, and I started smoking pot when I was like 12 years old, and psychologists have discovered that it helps with painful memories.
Right.
So I didn't know why I was smoking it, but they were very painful. I left home soon after that because I wasn't happy with my parents
Right.
and stuff like that. So here I am doing a drug, you can say whatever, for lessening the pain, and then I get sent to jail. So you're getting a double whammy, right?
Right.
Like I mentioned earlier, like people wouldn't do drugs if they didn't have to. Why would you spend the money and play with fire,
Right.
with addiction and all the other accompanying pitfalls? So I mean, it shouldn't be a criminal matter. And like I say, if we did that, it would free the streets up and divert the taxes into.
Well, the numbers are there, so I mean, time will tell. Is there anything else you'd like to add today, Doug?
No, actually, I think I've had a pretty good rant.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for
Well,
being
thank
on
you very
Thunder
much,
Bay
Kelly.
Live.
Yes, I appreciate the time you give me.
No problem.
Okay then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, cameraman, and John.